everybody, what is up? We have another short solo summer episode today where we are just going to talk about student debt. College is starting back up, so I want to make sure that I outline this racket for all you folks. Make sure you know what's going on, how we are all being scammed, why student debt matters for all taxpayers, not just students or people saving up for their kids to go to college, anything like that. It affects everybody. You are being ripped off by our student loan debt policy, whether you have student loans or not. Whole thing, complete racket. So we have a huge student debt crisis right now. We've got, let's see, where's the statistic I've got here? Okay, Americans combined owe $1.69 trillion in student loan debt. 42 million Americans combined owe this 1.69 trillion. Okay, so 42 million Americans have student debt. Now, this didn't happen by itself. This isn't a normal market phenomenon. This isn't just something that, some hurdle that was thrown at us by God that we have to deal with as a society. No, this crisis was caused by the government. As you can imagine, these kind of debt crises don't just come out of nowhere. They're not market phenomenons. Okay, here's how you know. Costs have gone up a lot. Just in total, the dollar's lost a lot of value since 1980. Okay. Inflation has risen 236% since 1980. Over that same period, and 236% is a lot. The average tuition and fees to go to college in that same period's gone up 1,200%. So 1,000% more than inflation. That's insane. And I'm going to upload a graph for you guys so that you can see this. But this is an increase that is beyond just about anything I can find. Okay. Way more than gas. It's even more than housing. It's more than, groceries, more than a cup of coffee. It's more than everything. The price of cars, anything you could imagine. Student fees and tuition have gone up more relative to inflation. So it's become this debt trap for millions. Okay, so we can pinpoint pretty closely when this all started. Okay, about 1980. So why? 1978, Congress passes this bill called the Middle Income Student Assistance Act. And what this act did, it was something done in good faith. They thought it would be a good thing. What it did is it made federally subsidized loans available to all students, not just students with low incomes like had previously been the case. And it took about 2 years to get the word out to people that they could take these loans out now, all of them. Remember, 1980, social media wasn't that big of a thing. You had to roll out the programs, get everything established. So we really start seeing the increases in 1980. Okay, about 2 years after this program has been passed. And tuition has just climbed steadily since then, pretty consistently. Okay, you look before 1980, tuition's almost flat, doesn't go up much at all. 1980, it starts to skyrocket, and it has not stopped since. Been soaring for decades. So here's why that all this went down. Universities serve one of the poorest education / age demographics in the U.S. Okay, young adults without a college degree. It doesn't get much poorer than that, right? Like, what other age education demographic is going to be poorer than young people without degrees? Okay, that's the university's target market. So for a long time, before 1980, universities had to really pay attention to what their tuition and prices were because, again, their target market had to pay cash to show up to these. So it couldn't be expensive or people wouldn't be able to afford it. And a lot of people back then either worked for a year or two after high school, or they worked full time during college to pay for their college. And you could do that because college, the tuition and fees was not that much compared to what minimum wage was, what a lot of, kids make coming out of high school. But the subsidized loans changed everything. So now students didn't have to work for the cash to pay for college right then. They could take out this big loan. And the interest could be subsidized by the taxpayer. So what universities quickly realized was that their target demographic was no longer as sensitive to price as they once were. Okay. So universities realized they could raise prices, pursue all kinds of pet projects and crap. There's social issues, sports programs that lose millions of dollars a year, big campus projects, amenities. I mean, go to your local university and check out their gym. Okay. It doesn't look like any gym that you just pay for on your own. Okay. Even if you're someone that makes a lot of money, the college gym is going to be nicer than your gym that you maybe pay hundreds of dollars a month for. Yet it's for one of the poorest demographics. How's that happen? Federally subsidized loans. So a study by the New York Federal Reserve, okay, a somewhat reputable institution amongst the academics. Again, we all have different thoughts on the Fed and how quickly they should be disbanded, all that kind of stuff. But as far as their studying for loan pass-through rates, I trust their research. This all checks out here. What they found was that when the maximum loan amount increased, okay, every year Congress is voting to raise the amount that students can borrow on subsidized loans. Every time they raise that limit, tuition rose on average by 60 cents for each dollar the limit is raised. So 60%, okay? So just to give you a real world example here, if the maximum loan amount you could get was $10,000 and they decided to raise it to $20,000, tuition would go up $6,000 just because of the student loans. Because again, it's back to that dynamic. Since students don't have to pay it up front, okay, they're willing to pay more because all they have to do is sign their name on the X because they're 18 years old and they're dumb. They don't think about how this is going to affect them for the rest of their life. So that's called the pass-through rate, okay? How much these loans affect tuition. 60%, which is insane, okay? So why would we keep raising the loan limit if that's what's going to happen? And here's why. And this has created this just crazy amount of unaffordable tuition. I mean, some colleges are charging something like $100,000 a year now. It's insane. So why doesn't Congress just stop raising the maximum loan amount? Because it's a pretty vicious cycle, right? Tuition becomes too expensive. Okay. So then they need to raise the loan amount. They raise the loan amount. Tuition then increases 60% of that amount that they raised. So then even more people can't afford it and need subsidized loans. So then tuition goes up even higher and the cycle just continues on and on and on and on. So why not stop raising the loan maximum? Higher education in this country, $200 billion industry. Okay. Even the public university system is this just disgustingly bloated bureaucracy where people are getting filthy rich. I mean, these administrators are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay, millions of dollars over their careers, administering these bureaucracies. By the way, a lot of these bureaucracies that I'm saying here have nothing to do with the classroom. Okay, these people are paid. These university presidents are activists lobbyists, just bureaucrats that are kowtowing to unions. These people don't give a shit about students. If they did, they wouldn't be advocating for student loan limits to be raised. They wouldn't be jacking tuition up to $100,000 a year. They'd be focusing on lowering the price of their education to make it attainable for more people without enslaving them to debt for the rest of their life. Okay. So these administrators, again, you don't hate them enough. You don't know them. You probably don't have any living in your neighborhood. They are the absolute worst. They're parasites. Okay. So what they do is these filthy rich people that get, again, wildly rich on the backs of students. This is what the corrupt cycle looks like. Okay. The university administrators and the faculty unions, they donate to left-wing super PACs. Colleges, it's usually over 95% of political donations go to left-wing causes coming out of these colleges. Okay. So they donate to these super PACs, tons and tons and tons of money. And we'll just take a random example. We'll say in California, when Gavin Newsom first ran for governor, okay, the faculty union donated over $300,000 to Gavin Newsom's campaign. Then, in return, all they ask for is an increase for student loan limits and more federal and state grants to be increased. And they say, well, this is a good thing. We are increasing affordability for students by offering these giant student loans and more grants. Okay. And then the left-wingers win. And what do? They increase taxpayer budgets for universities. So this is where the state is just writing a check to the universities. They blow that way up. Okay. But then they increase these grants, they increase these student loans. And so what do universities do? We know they raise tuition 60%. So remember, the whole point of offering more student loans and grants was to increase affordability for students. That's what these administrators are claiming when they support these politicians, okay, left-wing politicians. When they get what they want, they turn right around and they raise tuition prices. And they go, oh, inflation. Oh, we need this new volleyball arena that can seat 15,000 people, even though only 10 show up for our games. It is idiots. It's the stupidest thing. Okay. It's a racket right in front of us. So they raise the tuition, and what do? Now they have all this extra money. So they expand the administration. They hire their friends, their buddies. You want a $200,000 salary position? You want to be a consultant for $100,000 this year? You want to be some professor that doesn't teach any classes? Sure, here's a couple $100,000. Go research some left-wing idiot. I mean, just go research gender studies. So they do all sorts of stuff like this, okay? So then the faculty, so remember, they expand the faculty, they expand the administration, the bureaucracy gets bigger. And so then what do? Now they start indoctrinating the students to vote for far-left candidates. The far-left candidate wins again. And what do you know? University budget goes up. Administrators get even more money. They can expand the administration. And then they indoctrinate more kids. Well, now we need free college. We need to bring all kids to college. Okay? So they can be indoctrinated here. And then what they want, after they run up the $1.69 trillion in debt, they look at you, the taxpayer who's never been to college or paid off your college working or got loans, paid them off. They look at you and say, you need to pay for all this debt that we just ran up. How could anyone pay all these student loans they took out? They were 18. They were taken advantage of. They don't say it was taken advantage of by them. But these kids, they were taken advantage of. Their brains weren't fully developed. They didn't know. So now you, the taxpayer, need to foot the bill. It's a disgusting racket. Okay. These people are the worst. You don't hate them enough. So get this, just to hammer home what they're doing with this money, the administrators. This is from Forbes, okay? Between 1976 and 2018, so even these numbers are 7 years old. Who knows what we have post-COVID here? But between 1976 and 2018, full-time administrators and other professionals employed by colleges increased by 164% and 452% respectively. So admin expanded by 164%. Other professionals, be consultants, lawyers, whatever professional class you want to throw out there, 452% expansion respectively. Okay. Meanwhile, the number of full-time faculty, okay, the professors, the people actually in the classroom, okay, increased by only 92%, barely outpacing the increase in student enrollment, which was 78%. So again, just to drive this home, between 1976 and 2018, the amount of students going to college increased 78%. The same time, administrators increased 164%. Other professionals, whatever that is, increased 452%. And professors barely outpaced students, 92%. Okay. So what you're seeing there is the classroom isn't really getting any better. Okay. They've got roughly the same amount of faculty members per student. Okay. But the bureaucracy above them has just exploded. Over doubled for the admin, well over doubled, and almost 5 times here for other professionals. So that's what they're doing with this money. All these tuition increases that they claim they need, and the reason they have to, trap all of our young people in debt is so they can expand their administrations. And what are these people doing? What are all these administrators for? Well, it used to be easy to admit kids into Harvard. You have the high SAT score, you're in. That's it. But now they need people to read all of the essays because the SAT scores are racist. They need to remember it's all done by race. If you are a race that they want to promote in their college, a race that they favor, then you're going to get preferable treatment. You write some essay about how you grew up in the ghetto of Baltimore, you're more likely to get into Harvard than somebody who, lived in San Francisco's Chinatown, has a perfect SAT score. That person's not getting into college, into an elite university. Sorry. Asians, whites, completely discriminated against. And I know that the Supreme Court has said they can't, but they do it anyways. And they openly talk about how they get around the mechanical parts of discrimination, okay? Like the points they used to allocate to you for your race. That's done, but now they use the essays. And so they need more of these administrators, more of these admissions professionals to sort through all these and make sure they can continue their social engineering experiment where they exclude white people and Asians from Indians a lot from these elite universities. They can bring in the people they want, okay, for their social justice organization. I mean, it's just what they're doing is sick. It is an experiment in social engineering, okay? They want to make sure your kids can't get into the colleges they want to so that they can bring in young leftists, people who are more likely to support the Democratic Party, okay? Not young white people. Sorry. You're a young straight white guy. You're one of the most conservative young generations had in a long time. You're not getting into Harvard. Sorry, doesn't matter if you got a perfect SAT score. They don't want you because they hate you for your race. So just as we continue, just remember that's why they hate you. Okay? They don't just hate you for your ideology or anything like that. They hate you for what you look like. They're the worst racists, and our government is paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're the elite people now, our scholars. It's no wonder our kids, are getting the worst education they've gotten since ever. I mean, since the beginning of our higher education system, things have never been this bad. And the system's bigger than it's ever been. So just to talk a little bit more about the ideology here. Graduation for a lot of these schools now depends on completely ideological coursework, okay? Again, we'll use California. The California State University system, it's got 23 campuses, okay? Every student, no matter your major, you don't have to be a feminist studies major for this. If you are studying engineering, you must take a class in ethnic studies or social justice, okay? And the point of this is two, okay? The first point is to indoctrinate students into leftist ideology. They want to make you into good little socialists and make sure the Democratic Party can continue to raise lots of money because remember, these are going to be the future high income earners, okay? The people graduating from college. So if the Democratic Party can continue to indoctrinate students at school, they will have a donor for the rest of their life, a donor with a lot of money. Okay. The second point to all this, besides just creating, rich future donors, is the next point. It's making sure that kids are mandated to take ethnic studies and social justice courses means that the college has to hire more social justice and ethnic studies majors. So what it does is it's a pyramid scheme, okay? They sell some kids, a small portion of kids, major in these ridiculous majors, okay? Interpretive dance and leftist theory and ethnic studies, social justice. People major in this. Then they get out into the real world, but they can't make any money. Who wants to employ a social justice major? But the Democratic Party needs high income earners who are radical activists, okay? They need those people. The only high paying job they can get is out of college. So then when the colleges mandate everybody take these programs, now they got to hire social justice majors to teach these programs. And now they can pay a social justice major $250,000 to teach this class, and they'll donate as much as they can to the Democratic Party and keep the cycle going. That's why it's a pyramid scheme, okay? They convince kids to get into these ridiculous majors. They get out. The only place they can work is a college. So then the college decides they're going to raise tuition, take all that money, and hire these social justice majors, okay? But then even then they create too many leftists. They can't hire them all at universities. They hire the ones they like. But an entire private industry of social justice has popped up. Okay, I know Matt Walsh has talked about this, but the diversity, equity, and inclusion training and consulting industry is now $15 billion. Okay, these are companies like Apple that have to bring in a diversity consultant or something stupid to come in and train their employees. That way they don't get sued. When someone in the company, makes an off-color joke on Twitter or something, Apple doesn't want to get sued. So they say, hey, we trained everybody in racial sensitivity. It's not our fault this guy went and said something true on Twitter. So now these young employees, again, who are leftists because the colleges are indoctrinating them, get into these companies like Apple. They demand that everybody take these racial sensitivity trainings, okay? And what does it? Creates its own industry. It propagates itself. And these consulting fees, these consultants don't provide any real value, okay? These consulting fees are like tributes to activists, okay? Left-wing activists in exchange for this get-out-of-jail-free card for companies. In case somebody says something in public they don't like, the company can waive their get-out-of-jail-free card they got from the author of White Fragility that says, no, I went there and I spoke to them, and they're a great company. They paid me my $1 million. I donated half of it to the Democratic Party, and so they're good. Don't go after Apple. You'll notice nobody ever does go after Apple. Wonder why. So the universities have 100% succeeded, okay, in indoctrinating tons of young people who are going to go out in the world and make a lot of money. Some in the education system, some not. They do it to make sure that these kids donate to left-wing causes, and then the leftists can keep winning. The leftists, when they get into office, then give more money to the education system, and the cycle continues. And here's where it gets really, really sick and frustrating, okay? Remember, this whole thing's a pyramid scheme on one level. It's a Ponzi scheme on another level. The collectivists that built this house of cards, okay, now they want to tell you they can fix it. This house of cards is now the $1.6 trillion debt bomb we have. And they're going, whoa, hold on. No one can pay this back. How are we going to deal with this? And the collectivists throw their hand up. Bernie Sanders just did this on Joe Rogan. They say the government should pay off all the loans. So you, the taxpayer, need to pay off all these student loan debts. That, again, went to fund. It's all just money laundering for left-wing causes, man. They want you. Now the bill's coming due. Everyone sees that this is just a massive bubble, and they want the government to bail everybody out. Bernie Sanders goes on Joe Rogan. He says, hey, a medical degree now costs $500,000, and we need doctors. It's stopping people from becoming doctors. So here's what we should do. Let's subsidize all these degrees. Think about how stupid that is for a second. The government subsidies are the reason these degrees cost $500,000, and now Bernie Sanders wants to subsidize them even more. He doesn't even realize his entire ideology caused this problem, and he sincerely thinks he can fix it with more government money. He thinks that the plumber that works down the street who didn't go to college should have to pay higher taxes and pay off all the debts for some social justice major in San Francisco, because now they have to work for, some firm and work 40 hours a week. They don't want to, or their degree's just completely worthless. They're not one of the lucky ones that get a job at a college. So they're flipping burgers at McDonald's with $200,000 of student debt, bitching and moaning why they can't pay it off. And again, the people who go to college, okay, make more money than people who don't on average. Yet Bernie Sanders wants people who didn't go to college, okay, to pay off the debt of their higher income peers. Okay, those that graduate college. How's that progressive? It's the most regressive thing I can imagine. It's flagrant. The whole financial burden he wants placed on the taxpayers, Bernie Sanders. He's such a phony. People want to hold him up as this sincere leftist or something, and in some cases he comes off that way. But what he's trying to do here is truly sick. Okay? His people profited off this Ponzi scheme forever. And now he wants to just shift that blame onto everybody else. He knows they destroyed this system. And he's floating his scam Band-Aid as some sort of feasible program that we should just forgive all the debt. Fuck that guy. Sorry, we're not letting the commies win this one. And then they point to the people that don't want to pay the debt off of these college graduates and say, well, it's the small government people that are being heartless. They just, they don't want to forgive the loan and just make it free for everybody. Yeah, the small government people are the heartless ones, not the leftists that have profited off this for decades and created this whole system on purpose, okay, and now claim to fix it. You, the small government advocate, you're the heartless one. Despite not profiting off the system at all, despite your political cause not being benefited at all, and you having nothing to do with fucking any of this. But they want you to pay for it. And then lost in this whole thing, just so you know, taxpayers aren't just getting shafted if they have to pay off everyone's debt. Taxpayers are already subsidizing the interest for all these loans. That's why I'm saying it affects every single person. You are getting ripped off. If you are an American taxpayer, you are being ripped off by college debt. Your money that you work hard for is going into some college president's salary so that he can live in a mansion and donate to Gavin Newsom to try and take your rights away. So that homeless people can live on your street. So that your kids can't get into the colleges they want to go to and that you paid for, okay? That your grandparents probably helped build. That's what this is all going towards. Absolute bullshit. This whole thing is a pyramid scheme, and it's a Ponzi scheme in one. I mean, on the micro, it's the pyramid scheme. On the macro, it's the Ponzi scheme. An absolute just power grab. A way for leftists to cement their own power, enrich themselves, and rip off the rest of the taxpayers. Fuck them. So, sorry, not as happy of an episode as I wanted to bring you guys, but this student loan stuff is the absolute worst. Okay, it really is just the sickest part of the leftist mindset and their whole power structure, how they use our system to enrich themselves and keep themselves in power. It's truly the worst, but I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you.